So this is a prelim video based on what we know about the ESOS action plans and the MESOS system. This is based on both knowledge of MESOS and also this newsletter here, newsletter 29 from the Environment Agency, which makes a rather unusual decision, or statement rather, about a decision they've made. In it, they say that they've taken the decision not to enable ESOS participants to add restricted users to their MESOS accounts to provide action plans. You decode that, what does that mean? It means that you are not, well, the ESOS lead assessors are not allowed to prepare and file the ESOS action plans. You've got to do it yourself. This isn't a decision I agree with. I don't think it brings anything to the party. And in fact, if you think about it, it's rather equivalent to your accountant sort of saying, here's all the information for the end of your accounts, file it yourself. Why would you do that? You know, we're as ESOS lead assessors, we know the MESOS system backwards. We know the kind of stuff they're asking for backwards. Why on earth, you know, they're not letting us go in and actually do the grunt work of filing it for you? I don't know. Okay, I think there will be problems. I think there's a couple of areas that will cause problems. Let's go into a couple of those. So the first, not really a problem, but I'm just going to highlight it for you. It says that you should try and aim at doing your ESOS action plan and file it by the 5th of December 24. But if you don't, 5th of March 25 is acceptable. And I think the majority of people are going to go for that second date. You know, it gives you an extra, what is it, 3-4 months, something like that, to get your ESOS action plan sort of finalized. And do you know what? That's where the problems are starting to occur. That's what people are finding, because, you know, the ESOS action plan is going to be made public, and you're going to end up with a lot of information being released, which I'm sure analysts are going to start looking at and preparing sort of league tables and sort of comments on what companies are doing, etc. And the challenge with the ESOS action plans is it asks you what precisely you're going to do and how much energy precisely it's going to save and when you're going to do it. Okay. Now, a lot of clients in the past, a lot of companies, a lot of professionals I speak to have a general idea that we'll be doing solar, or we'll be putting in some sort of renewable scheme, or we're moving to for example, heat pumps and decarbonizing our heating systems. That's fine, no problem with that. And, you know, the plans for doing it are going on. People are doing this stuff. You know, it makes commercial sense in so many different ways. But this here, this template, and I'll explain the template in a second, says, well, when are you going to do it? What is it going to save? So if you miss your targets, because this is all public, it's a little bit egg on face, isn't it? It's a bit sort of like, you know, you said you're going to do it and you've not done it. So the challenge that people are finding is that they suddenly have to take all of the general concepts they were thinking of. For example, let's decarbonize our heating system across our estate. I.e. take out gas boilers, put in, for example, heat pumps, and then switch from diesel cars to sort of electric. What's happening now is people are going back, well, you know, when are we going to do that? And the boards of directors are saying, well, hang on, how much is that going to cost? And most people are turning around saying, not really entirely sure. I think it's probably around that much, you know. And if it's in the ESOS action plan, the ESOS audit rather, you've got pretty good data to work from. But if you haven't, you've got a very short amount of time to actually absolutely decide what you're going to do, see what budget it's going to come out of, and commit those funds to make an absolute sort of statement. And you know, some of the things that people are doing are jolly expensive. You know, as one of my clients is putting in solar, and it's £2 million a site, and they've got quite a few sites. To actually sign that level of capex off and actually commit to it in budgets within a short time frame is proving problematic for people. And I hope it doesn't for you. You know, if you got any problems, you know, for heaven's sakes, get in contact with me, and you know, I can show you I can tell you sort of what other people are doing in this sector. But it's the definite sort of absolute, we're going to do this on this day, and this is what it's going to save. That's the bit that's kind of causing problems for people. So let's have a look at the form. there it is in all its glory. When you see it, you'll have more green sort of columns here. One green column per energy action you're going to do. Okay, so in the ESOS action plan, it says what are you going to do, when you're going to do it, how much is it going to save, and it's got 6 pieces of mandatory disclosures that you need to make. And don't forget, these will be made public, and I do think you'll end up with a whole bunch of analysts crawling all over it and sort of doing analysis. That's what they do, isn't it? But actually saying, you know, this company is looking to do more than that and stuff like that. I think that will occur. And it's got 2 optional boxes. In my experience, if it's got optional written by it, very few people actually go ahead and fill in the optional sections. And please do if you want to, no problem, but most people just skip those. So the 6 pieces you need: the name, you know, what is it you're going to do? For example, LED lighting upgrade. Is the measure a result, was it identified in an energy audit, which could be an ESOS audit, it could be an independent third-party energy audit if you've had those done, yes or no. In my experience, the people we spoke to so far, they are taking a lot of the ESOS action sort of suggestions, and they're taking those on board. But as I say, getting budget for it in such a short period of time is difficult. So they're struggling there. But, you know, they're also adding in all of the other things that they're thinking about, that they were thinking about anyway, even if it's not part of an energy audit. ESOS, one of the big criticisms of ESOS, and if you look at the European scheme CSRD, which concentrates on sustainability and carbon, ESOS is just energy. Okay, one of the other things that you could do in that section there is put your carbon saving measures in, or your environmental improvement measures in, not just energy. Okay, good example of that would be the move to eradicate single-use plastics. When you do the maths, it's got actually quite a small impact on your carbon footprint, but obviously a massive environmental impact. And, you know, so it wouldn't really be in an ESOS sort of report at all. It's not really to do with energy, but it sure is in sort of, you know, environmental reports. So you might want to put things down in there, even though they're not just energy related. All right, skip it down. The 2 big problems. Number 1, implementation date for the measure. And as I say, that means that you're nailing your colors to the mast, saying we are going to do, for example, this LED lighting upgrade, and then you need a month and a year. Okay, so and this is you telling the outside world what you're going to do. So, you know, I hope you're sort of, you know, ready for, actually, if you say you're going to be spending this money on this date for this measure, then, you know, people will expect you to do it. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is estimate the total energy savings expected from this measure by organizational purpose, i.e. what's it actually going to save. Now, again, when you do ESOS audits, you go through this mechanism. You go through a system of saying, we're going to do this on this day. Sorry, we're going to do this measure. It's going to cost roughly that. It will pay back in X years because it saves, you know, so many kilowatt hours of energy per year. So if you are using the recommendations put through in ESOS audits, you should be able to have a lot of that information already. But if you don't, then working out what, for example, a full estate LED upgrade will generate in terms of savings is quite a lot of work. And, you know, we have software, you know, the Inistic platform does all of this automatically for you, which is, you know, going to save you a huge amount of time. But if you haven't got, you know, a piece of software, if you're not running Inistic or one of the others out there, then, you know, you're going to have a problem. Excuse me, total energy savings from the measure. That's just all I said, you know, what each of the ESOS energy actions you're going to do, what each one's going to save. But they do ask you to split it out by buildings, transport, or industrial processes. That should be quite straightforward. And then there's a killer box here. How were the total energy saving estimates calculated? Either by an energy audit, alternative compliance method. Generally, you know, I don't see many of those. It's the energy audit's the big one, or some other reasonable estimation. And again, you know, when you use software like the Inistic system, you can click, and it will say, well, you know, here's the kind of the audit trail. Here's the verification of why we think it's going to save that. But if you haven't got that, I know one of my sort of counterparts in ESOS Lead Assessor does it all manually with Excel and Word. What a nightmare. So that, you know, they've got a huge amount of work to do there to actually justify why they think measure X is going to save Y. And if you think about it, I'll give you a real life sort of example of the problem there. Is one of my clients is looking to put electric charge points outside of their shops so that their clients can recharge electric cars at the shop. That's obviously a good idea. I buy that. But, you know, you try and figure out the energy savings from that. It's not simple. It's not easy. You know, it's a good thing to do because it will encourage more people to sort of move to an electric vehicle or electric van. But actually trying to figure out what the actual savings are going to be difficult for that. And don't forget, in theory, by the 5th of December, in reality, 5th of March, you don't have long to do all this additional analysis if it's not something you're taking from your ESOS audit in the first place. Okay, so that's the beauty, the wonder of newsletter 29 and its associated template. I hope you found some of that useful. This is just an initial glimpse. You know, the testing of the system will be going on later in October 2024, like the MESOS ESOS Action Plan sort of submission. That will happen later this month, and once I've got more information about, you know, what that looks like in real life, I'll update this video for you or produce another video and give you a sort of a real life, this is how you do it. Okay, so that's probably in the pipeline for either later October or early November once I know a bit more myself. Okay, so I hope that was useful. If you've got any questions to do with carbon or sustainability, my mission is to try and save 10,000 companies some carbon and make them more sustainable. That's why I'm here. That's why I do this. And if you've got any questions about that, how about your carbon or emissions or sustainability or CSRD, the new kid on the block, just let me know. And if I can help, I certainly will. Okay, see you next time.